Hello, encouragers. I'm Rebecca Scott, wife, mother of 4, author, and owner and designer of Rebecca Scott Designs. I'm here to encourage you, to make you feel the I can do this spirit each and every day of our awesome journeys to fulfill those many important roles. I believe we are fully equipped to execute, and I will provide you with as much knowledge and practices and systems as I can to help you understand just what I know you can do. Execute. We got this.
Hello, encouragers. Welcome to the podcast. Today we've got our expert on again because this is what's trending right now is everybody asking me on social media, like, how did you hire this person? How did you hire this person? How did you get the size that you were? So it takes some time for me to reflect and go, okay, well, what positions came first? And for me, it was the accountant because I didn't want to do my taxes anymore. I didn't want to figure that out. And then it was like, I need to visually look better because I was so busy in the making process. I knew that I needed this whole Facebook thing was new, which totally just aged me, but it was new. And how do I look good on that? But I don't really want to do it. I just want to keep sewing in my happy place. And so I was fortunate enough to know some right people and be able to do some interviewing. And I got Melissa. And Melissa Heckel is an awesome graphic designer, brand strategist right here, local in Brandon, South Dakota. And we got to work together for several years on my business, Rebecca Scott Designs. And I brought her on the podcast today to talk about what is branding. Because it's a large word and we hear it and we throw it around, but I had it wrong. I was not thinking of it the right way. I thought it was kind of your logo, and that's not necessarily true. And so Melissa's going to help us break down what is branding and then how would we go about doing a brand strategy. So welcome, Melissa. Thank you for coming on today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
First off, if you can just tell us the answer, what is branding?
Well, I'm going to start off with telling you what it's not, which you kind of already alluded. Yeah, so your logo is not your brand. It is part of your brand. Branding is more about emotions and feeling. It's about how people feel and connect with your company. It's kind of like what they say about you when you're not in the room. Along with the logo and your print materials and your beautiful graphics, it's also how customers feel when they step into your store. What's the experience they have or the vibe in your store? What's the tone of voice and the personality and the copy that you write for your emails, your posts, and on your website? And then, it's what you stand for. It's your values. And it encompasses every visual, every experience, and every touch point that a customer has with your company.
Gosh, I just want to stop everybody. It's what they say when you're not in the room. Okay, branding is what they say about you when you're not in the room. That's all you need to remember because that is pretty powerful. And I quick jump to thinking about what they say about me when I'm not in the room for my purse business. This is fantastic. What's the most common mistake we might make when we're creating our brand?
First thing a lot of people do is just jump right into logo design. They've, got their sales tax ID, they set up their LLC, named their business, and they think right away, oh, I need a logo. But it's really important to build a strong foundation. And so what I highly recommend is actually starting with your brand strategy.
Okay.
And brand strategy, what that does is it takes a really deep dive into your why, your messaging, your vision for your company, who your brand speaks to, how you speak to those people, and really what do you value as a company?
Can we do this on our own? Like, do we just sit down and block out a couple of hours and kind of answer all these questions? Again, encouragers, this will be a resource available on our website so you can have this couple hours. Or how do you suggest a person does that, Melissa?
Anybody can go on Google and, search for brand strategy, and you can do it on your own. But I find it to be it can be really overwhelming to get really deep in your business on your own. And you kind of get that, and you end up with tunnel vision of just your own perspective of your business. So I really would suggest, hiring an expert to help you guide you through the brand strategy and give you some, professional guidance and an outsider's perspective.
And we call it the curse of knowledge. Sometimes, you just know too much. It's blatantly staring at you and you've just seen it too often and you just know too much about it. So having that outside opinion is just crucial because they don't have that curse of knowledge.
Right.
Yeah. So if we go ahead and we're like, yep, we need the expert that has 10,000 hours of this brand strategy. We've Googled ourselves to death and it's way overwhelming. And so we're going to hire this graphic designer. We're going to hire this brand. What are they called actually? Is it a brand strategist, or what position are we looking to Google and hire?
Yep. Some graphic designers will have that brand strategy experience. You could call it a brand strategist. Yeah.
Okay. So what would that session look like?
So they're usually 1 to 2 hours. I think anything past 2 hours, you just start getting kind of fidgety, but we really get into the weeds of your business. And then we go through a lot of questions to just flush out the details. So I kind of brought a list of 9 things that I'll share in this episode that are the core of brand strategy. So I'll go down the line and share some of those with you. Yeah. The first one is brand story. How and where you got started to where you are now. And this is kind of more on the logistical side. So when I think of your sewing company, Rebecca Scott Designs, I think of the story of you cutting your curtains and going from the logistics of that to having a full team of seamstresses and ordering fabric in bulk. And that is an awesome brand story.
Yeah.
And then right piggybacking off of that would be the founder's story. This is more the inspiration behind the brand, your personal story for starting your company. And same thing, I was kind of thinking about RSD when I was putting my thoughts together for this, and how you wanted to stay home and sew with your babies, and the story of leaving Gus for the art show, and how you just decided then and there that you're going to prioritize your life, in a different way. So that also, on top of your brand story, your founder's story just really supports that. The third one, which I love talking about, is the purpose or the why of your business. Simon Sinek, famous business personality, he has been quoted saying, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. People want to get behind you on your why and your purpose for your business. And it just really helps you to connect with your audience on a deeper level.
And that is like, you can't, for example, with the why, it's like, I don't make a purse so that she has a purse. That's not why I do it. I do it so that she can express herself creatively outside of just some brand label. Like a Coach bag is great and they're well made, and I'm sure they have a great founder story and stuff. But for me personally, I make a purse so that the woman can define more of who she is. I believe that when people create, they have joy. And so that is my why. So everything that I do goes back to the customer and why I'm doing it, so that they learn that creating gives them joy. So whether they create a purse on the website and then they go and create something amazing for their family or for themselves, or they start their own business, they are creating and they have joy. So that's my why. And it didn't come right away. I had to keep developing that over the years. But that's why people buy from us, even when maybe they have to save up a lot of money. That still to this day, when they buy an RSD, they know that they had fun in the creative process. And they could probably say my why quicker than anybody else when I'm live.
Which is awesome. It's a testament to you, focusing on the core of your brand and why you do what you do. The other thing about the why, you got the customer side, but then you also have the personal side, because being in business is hard and some days are going to be challenging. And so when you're so strong in knowing your why, it helps you to stay motivated and keep going. You can kind of go back to why you got started in the first place. And I think that's a really good thing to have in your back pocket as a business owner.
Especially when you get into the competitive mode. Like you're like, well, everybody's selling the $40 top, but why are you selling the $40 top? That's where you're going to sustain you, when you can find the why. Otherwise, if it is just selling the $40 top, you're going to be out. You're just going to burn out. So I love it.
Right. So after your why, we talk about the market analysis. So what is your company doing well? What could be improved? What needs is your product or service fulfilling in your industry? What are your competitors doing well, or what are they doing not so well that you could improve upon? And then kind of building on top of that is getting to know your target market and building out the customer personas. So then you really have to ask yourself, who is your dream client? Who do you really want to work with or work for? And then what does that person look like? What are their beliefs? Where do they live? Where do they shop? What foods do they eat? What are their hobbies? I've even gone so far. I did a brand strategy for a business that I was building last year on the side. And I even went out on Google and I found an image of a woman with toddlers at her feet. Like she fit the customer persona of the company I was building. And then I also like gave her a name. I can't even remember what it was. Like, I think it was Jennifer or something like that. I gave her a name and everything just so that you can really visualize like who you're speaking to and who you want to serve with your company.
It's frequently called your avatar. Like, who are you aiming at?
Yeah.
And while you guys may think this is silly and you're like, well, I'm not going to do that step of these 9 things, it is so crucial that you do this step, because if you're trying to appeal to everybody, you will aim at nobody. You have to decide who is my dream client? Who exactly am I selling to? What is my why? Like, that is important. And then who? So it's your why, and then it's who. Who are you selling to? And I love the idea of creating an avatar, especially in the brand strategy, because then you will picture this woman or this man or whatever the service is every single time you post something or ask something from your graphic designer. You're like, well, I'm picturing Jennifer right now, and this is what she would want. It's so critical to have that step.
Yes. Yeah. It just gives you so much more clarity and to know who you're speaking to with your products or your services. Mm-hmm. Yeah. After that, we move into vision and mission. Your vision is, what do you want to bring into the world with your products or services? And then your mission backs that up by defining how you're going to bring your vision to life. Mm-hmm. And then we kind of unpack your brand values. What are 3 or so keywords or phrases that encompass what you're all about in your company?
Oh, can you give us an example?
Yeah. Okay. So just for example, for Branch, our brand values would be customer service, which covers like our responsiveness, our efficiency, and our quality. Our organization and approaching, even though we're in a creative industry, just approaching our customers with a left and right brained approach. So we are very creative, but we're also very organized. And then also the last value for us is creative solutions, that each designer on my team brings a unique style and expertise so that we can bring your vision and your goals to life.
Oh, I like that. And so in this session, you would be able to help pull that out. What are their values by listening to their story in the way that you've arranged this, correct? Like, you'll help them. If they can't come to you with it, you'll help them find their values.
Yes. And while we're going through all of these questions, I'm typing like a mad woman. And it's interesting because as people are speaking during the brand strategy, a lot of times there's going to be a recurring theme. There's going to be some recurring words that you're saying frequently. Yep. And so those are some of the things you can kind of pull out and highlight that, hey, you said customer service 8 times in the last few questions. Yes. Maybe that is a key value that your company has.
I like it. Okay. Okay, what is brand voice then?
So brand voice is, how are you going to deliver your message? How are you going to speak to your ideal clientele? So this is where like personality comes in. And it also depends on your industry. Are you professional? Are you methodical and serious in how you talk in your, say your social media posts or in your emails? Or maybe you're quirky and fun and you like to have like a dry sense of humor and you're a little sarcastic. I would say that, with RSD, you're definitely very warm and inviting and encouraging. It's definitely
and quirky and fun and unpredictable. Oh, but that is true. I show up the same time on live every time. So, but it is important for them to like kind of define that. How do they want to show up? Because I also, people are like, I don't know how you keep up your energy. And I think, and I didn't know the words, but now I do. That's my brand voice. That's who I am. But that does not have to be who you are. So I like that this brand strategist would kind of narrow down, how do you want to show up? Let's think about your voice and how are you going to feel the most comfortable? Because if you're not comfortable dressing up in a blow-up unicorn outfit, then we'll probably want to talk about that. We're not going to force you into doing that sort of thing. But I love the idea that they would help you narrow down on us, talk about your brand voice. I think people would go live more often, which I will say, you guys, is a very powerful tool. If they felt a little bit more comfortable with, okay, I'm going to emphasize this because these are my brand values, and this is the voice and the tone that I'm going to choose how to deliver these messages. I love that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's just a good chunk of what we cover in brand strategy. It's not all encompassing, but I'd say those are like the major ones that we really unpack during a strategy session.
Okay, so after we've done these 9 things in the brand strategy, then what?
Yeah, so after that, then we start talking visuals. We maybe put together a mood board. We talk about typography, what fonts you want. Not necessarily what fonts you want, but like what fonts you like, and then we kind of see if that matches up to, what's going to be appropriate to reflect your brand after we've flushed out everything with your strategy. So then we'll move into the style of your logo, the color. And one tip for color, you shouldn't just pick your favorite color because there's actually psychology behind how colors make us feel and affect our brain and our decision making. Mm-hmm. And so an example of that, actually, I pulled out RSD again just because I know that this audience knows that brand. RSD's colors are black and pink. And so I kind of dove into the color black, which stands for luxury, elegance, professionalism, power. And actually a lot of fashion designers use black in their brands. So it makes total sense that RSD as an accessory, a fashion product would have black.
Yep.
And then pink is kind, generous, sensitive, caring, affectionate, romance. So,
like it.
Which definitely balances out the black, I think, and is a great representation of what RSD is.
Yeah, I mean, those adjectives alone, I would like to say, really do describe us: kind, generous, sensitive, caring, we're affectionate. I don't know about romantic, but I do like that the adjectives really do reflect on what we want. Okay, I have a question for you along with this brand strategy. Let's say, so I've been in business for 17 years, but let's say I've been in business for 5 years and I didn't have this. And all of a sudden I'm like, ew, I don't want my brand colors anymore. And I don't want this logo that was created 5 years ago. Is there a way to have a smooth transition from where, say, one of our listeners right now is like, I don't want to start from scratch, but I definitely need a refresh. Is there, like, how would you walk them through this color part in particular? Like, okay, we know you've had orange and baby blue for a while. How would you graduate them, so to say?
Yeah, I think it would definitely be worth it to reach out to a designer or brand strategist and talk to them about where you're at, and then talk about your goals and where you want to be with your business. And in terms of color, you definitely could say your primary color of your logo works, but you feel like maybe my secondary colors, those accent colors, could be spruced up or brought up to date or something like that. There's definitely ways you can keep the core of your design and then freshen up the extra elements to give you a fresh look without completely going back to square one.
Okay, so she just gave us permission, listeners, that you don't have to start from square one. It can just be like a re-strategy of what you have going. So you don't have to lose everything or launch everybody with, I've got a brand new thing. It's just a refresh. It's similar to the bottles that you get. I'm thinking of like the ketchup bottle that says new look, but it's the same recipe. So they're reminding you like, hey, we're just sprucing things up, but it's the same recipe.
Yeah. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with going back and revisiting your brand strategy every so often. It's just like you would reevaluate your goals every year, every 6 months, or, even more frequently than that. It definitely doesn't hurt to go back and reevaluate. Are your visuals still effective and cohesive with your, where your business is at now? Does your brand strategy make sense? Is your brand voice still make sense? Go back and review all of that. And there is no shame in updating. I've updated my own brand for Branch 3 times in the 10 years that I've been in business, even going through a whole rename of my business because my goals had shifted and my vision for my company has shifted. And it's just really important that your brand is in sync with all of those things.
Oh, thank you, because that just gives us so much permission. It's like, especially too, Melissa, if we've already spent like so much money 5 years ago to do all this, like let's say we did do some of this and then we're like, my goals are not aligning anymore. My voice has changed and I started to be more comfortable with who I was and who I started marketing to. It's totally okay to revisit it and update it. I think that's just great permission. I love that you also told us about your own position. Like you've changed it to 3 different times. But I don't remember thinking like, oh, she's completely changed it. It was just a refresh and a realignment. That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, I love this example. We're going to end this podcast with this great example that Melissa found about Payless shoes. So tell us this example about a brand strategy.
Yes, I love this story so much because it really illustrates the importance of a brand. So a lot of us are familiar with Payless, the shoe store. In 2018, they held a staged event where they actually took over a former Armani store and they rebranded themselves to Palessi, which sounds much more high-end. So they did a whole high-end rebrand. They redesigned the store. They made it look like it was a high-end Armani-esque designer shoe store. And then what they did was they invited style influencers from Instagram or bloggers who didn't know that this was a setup. And they sold their same $20 to $40 shoes at $200 to $600 price point. And what's so interesting is that in this news article that I was reading, the shoppers were interviewed and they were quoted saying things like, the shoes are elegant and sophisticated, and I could tell that it's made with high quality material. And, maybe the regular Payless shoes are, but they're definitely not a $200 to $600 shoe. So at the end of it, all the money was refunded to the influencers, but Payless did get permission to use their sound bites in commercials to promote their products.
That's awesome.
So, I think it's, outside looking in, it's kind of deceiving that they did that, but yet it's kind of really genius. And it just illustrates that brand is everything when it comes to your company and how people perceive your products and services.
100%. Remember that 3 seconds in the first 3 seconds. I love that story. It's a perfect wrap up for why branding is just so important. Okay, Melissa, how can you encourage our listeners with a brand strategy?
Yeah, so I just challenge you to sit down, go through the 9 items that we just discussed, maybe do a Google search if you want to find more questions.
We'll put these 9 that Melissa's pointed out, you guys, on our resource tab on the website, theencouragerpodcast.com. So print that off and then sit down and go through them. What else should we do?
Yeah, and then do the litmus test and see, is your brand in alignment with the visuals? Does it match up with the image that your logo, your fonts, all that are portraying to the world? And honestly, if it feels overwhelming, which it probably will, it's so worth it to hire a professional to help guide you through this, because this is the foundation of your business and the foundation of your marketing. So it just helps to give your business so much clarity. It'll help you attract your ideal clients. And then ultimately, you'll be making more money and you'll have a much stronger company for it.
It's so true. And you guys, I'm going to give you permission to spend a little bit more on this because, like Melissa said, it does set up the foundation. So it may feel overwhelming, but this, I would argue, is a better use of your money than buying a Facebook ad, because the ad may not be aligned with what your current values are or what you want to say about yourself. So spend the money and get this brand strategy done, because it'll help you with accelerating all the rest of your awesome ideas and all the things that you are really good at you can do after you've established a new brand strategy so that you can move forward. Like spend the money. I give you permission, and I just highly advise you to go ahead and do that. Melissa, if our customers want to reach out to you in particular for a brand strategy session, how do they do that?
Visit my website, which is branchcreativeco.com. We have a contact form there, or my email address directly is melissa@branchcreativeco.com. And I think we can put that in the show notes as well.
Yes, we can. Thank you for that. You guys, spend the money, take the time, go through the list, Decide where you are, like how bad is it, how good is it, and then Melissa will talk you through, I'm sure before you ever sign a check, we'll talk you through what is possible. Highly, highly encourage it. Thank you, Melissa, so much for encouraging us with how we want to look good and appear good for that first 3 seconds to be a major impact on all the amazing people that we want to serve. Until next time, encouragers, we got this.
I love hearing from you guys, especially via our Facebook community or also our ratings and reviews that you leave for the podcast. And this one comes from Mrs. RobDog82. So happy I've discovered this podcast. I've been in a major funk, and this podcast has lifted my spirits, renewed my energy, and upped my enthusiasm for productivity and motherhood. You will leave each episode feeling motivated and capable. Cannot recommend this podcast highly enough. Well, thank you so much. That is definitely my goal, is to make you feel more enthusiastic and to renew your energy and to also give you just practical things on productivity. Thank you so much for your ratings and reviews. They mean the world to me and help encourage me to keep doing what I know God has led me to do. We got this, encouragers. I know how you can start executing on all the things that God has equipped you to do. You can pick up my book at theencouragerpodcast.com and check out the store complete with book, journal, and the master course. Also, make sure to check out the resources tab where you'll get a hold of all the PDFs from the podcast. Thank you for tuning in, encouragers. Remember to subscribe so it's automatically on your phone. And please rate and review me. We got this, encouragers.